Is 1 hour 30 Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. 7 bomb explosions on trains in Bombay, India, have killed more than 160 people. More than 435 other people are injured. Indian police say the bombs exploded within minutes of each other late Tuesday. Thousands of people were using the trains. Police say the explosions were part of a planned attack. So far, no one has claimed responsibility for the bombings. Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has held an emergency cabinet meeting in New Delhi. He says he will defeat those responsible for the attacks. Bombay is also known as Mumbai. The international community has condemned the bomb attacks on Tuesday in Bombay. President Bush said the attacks make the international community even more united against terrorism. British Prime Minister Tony Blair called the attacks terrible. United Nations Secretary-General Kofi Annan said he was shocked by the bombings. He said they confirm that terrorism is one of the most serious threats against peace and security. In Pakistan, President Pervez Musharraf and Prime Minister Shaukat Aziz call the bombings in India horrible acts of terrorism. A series of attacks across Iraq have killed at least 47 people. The dead include 10 Shiite Muslims who were going to a funeral in the holy city of Najaf. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki has appealed to the country's Shiite and Sunni Arabs to end the conflict. He spoke to the Kurdish local parliament in northern Iraq. Also Tuesday, Sunni political leaders said they would end their boycott of the Iraqi parliament. The move came after a Shiite religious leader called for unity. Reports say kidnappers promise to soon release a kidnapped Sunni lawmaker. Sunni leaders had boycotted Parliament to protest the kidnapping. Palestinian officials say Israeli troops have begun crossing the border into the Gaza Strip. Media reports say Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert approved the expanded offensive on Tuesday. The offensive is aimed at stopping Palestinian rocket attacks and gaining the release of a kidnapped Israeli soldier. Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh has warned Israel against continuing the offensive. The Washington Post newspaper published the warning on Tuesday. Israel has carried out more airstrikes in the Gaza Strip. Palestinian officials say the attacks on Tuesday killed 1 man near the town of Beit Hanun. An Israeli warplane also destroyed a bridge in the area. Israeli officials say militants used the bridge to transport rockets. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. In Mexico, the Election Committee has accepted an official objection by presidential candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador. He has rejected results of the presidential election held July 2nd. Mr. López Obrador and his supporters say illegal activity helped conservative candidate Felipe Calderón to win the election. They say they have evidence of cheating, including video recordings showing a person filling ballot containers with votes. The supporters of Mr. López Obrador say they will begin street protests on Wednesday. The Mexican Election Committee has until September to make a ruling about the objection and officially announce Mexico's next president. A letter sent to top American defense officials admits for the first time that all military prisoners are protected by the Geneva Convention. The American Deputy Secretary of Defense, Gordon England, sent the letter. It states that all prisoners held by the United States military are guaranteed a trial and protection from violence under the international treaty. A spokesman for President Bush says the letter is not a change in policy because the military already treats prisoners humanely. Before this, the Bush administration had decided that the Geneva Convention did not protect some jailed terrorist suspects. Also Tuesday, the United States Senate Committee began hearings to establish new ways to try prisoners suspected of terrorism. United Nations officials from France and Britain have suggested that China plans to veto a UN Security Council proposed resolution. The resolution would order restrictions on North Korea for its missile tests last week. Chinese President Hu Jintao says his country opposes any action that would worsen the situation in the Korean area. North and South Korean officials held talks in Busan, South Korea, on Tuesday. The South Korean Minister for Unification said the North Korean missile tests have hurt relations between the two countries. North Korea's chief delegate said they should not let the current situation interfere with the unification talks. Police in Peru say 555 people have been killed in road accidents in the first 6 months of this year. They say this number is a third more than in the same period last year. Police say more than 750 traffic accidents happened between January and June. Officials say carelessness and disobeying traffic laws are the main causes of most of the accidents. Bus crashes are also common in Peru. Astronauts from the Space Shuttle Discovery are moving supplies and equipment to the International Space Station. They are also preparing for their third and final space walk on Wednesday. Astronauts Pierre Sellers and Mike Fossum plan to test materials and methods for repairing the shuttle's protective heat covering. President Bush has called the astronauts to wish them well. On Monday, the astronauts repaired broken equipment at the International Space Station. And now, briefly, here again is the major news of the hour. 7 bomb explosions on trains in Bombay, India, have killed more than 160 people. This news just in, Palestinian local reports say an Israeli airstrike on Gaza City has killed at least 4 people and wounded 15 others. And in Mexico, the election committee has accepted an official objection by presidential candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador. And that's the news in VOA Special English. This is Jim Tedder reporting.